What is good, guys and gals, and welcome to the Films and Pixels podcast, episode 27. I am your host, Afif. Thank you to all of you, wherever you are, for tuning in to this episode. Again, if you haven't before seen any previous episodes, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really does help. Again, I encourage you to like and follow all the social media links that I've provided in the description section below. So go ahead, check them out, follow them through, like as well. And again, I encourage you just to comment, leave a comment in the comment section below. It's good for engagement, great interaction. Always keep it fun, lighthearted, so it's always good. So again, thank you. And also, if you're listening instead, like on Spotify and Rami, Google Podcasts, thank you for tuning in as well. But yeah, without getting sidetracked, as for topics for this episode, it's more cinema focused, if you will. It's mostly like reacting and reviewing 3 movies I saw in the movie theater last month in October, being The Woman King, Amsterdam, and Black Adam. I'm going to talk about all 3 of them for today. I know the topics are kind of light, but I thought just keep the movie focused. So I think that would be a great idea. But yeah, without further ado, let's get going to episode 27 of the podcast. All right, guys and gals, the first movie I will be reviewing for this episode is going to be The Woman King. This movie I'm looking forward to talking about. It was directed by Gina Prince Bythewood, so I'm glad it did exceed my expectations, and I was very happy with what I saw. So I'm gonna go over that. It's a movie that it does take place around 17th and 19th century, between 17th through 19th century of that era. And, through that time, there are plenty of great stories that are told. And, The Woman King is really one of them. And I think it is fantastic because it highlights leaders who fight for your kingdom. They swear to protect and keep their civilians safe, which is really common anyway. But I'm glad, a lot of the lead characters are strong, tough, courageous women as well. So this is another thing that I really like. It does fall before I mention the characters, it is based on a story that's written by both Donna Stevens and Maria Bello. It is a novel, but just keep in mind there is partially fiction and fact, because I am aware it does take place in a kingdom called Dahomey, I think, around that era, but it does follow a story of all-female warrior known as the Ogoji. They're tasked with protecting their kingdom of Dahomey, which is in West Africa. It's again protecting their civilians against rival nations, rival tribes, and even slave traders as well. Unfortunately, also part of the story. So I thought that the director did a great job, and I really like the cast as well. I thought the cast really did a good job here with Viola Davis, Lashana Lynch, Sheila Atim, Thuso Mbedu, and John Boyega as well. And I really like how the story really just unravels into more interesting places when this young girl who refuses to be married to an older, abusive man who actually hits her in the face in front of her own parents. Her dad just sends her away to be trained by the Ogoji. And I think obviously throughout time she makes friends, she gets stronger. So, the film really just focusing on this young girl alongside the other characters, known as Izogi and Ameza as well, played by Lynch and Atem respectively. It was really interesting, especially Viola Davis's character, the general, the leader, Naniska. I thought her connection to I forgot the name of the young child, Nawabi or something. Yeah, but her connection really with her throughout is especially revealed somewhere in the late second act really is interesting. So it does make more sense when you think about her actions in the third film. But I will get to that as well. Again, action sequences and all that, that's more than fine. I really like how the women really get to shine the spotlight and the men not so much. The men are, you know, kind of like the antagonists in a way. I don't think it's meant to be a woman versus, or I should say, women versus men kind of story. So just keep in mind. But I think it's meant to really highlight like an era in West Africa that was real, while there's sort of like a fictional story as well. I did mention John Boyega's character as well. He's like a King Gezo or something. I mean, he was fine. I thought he did a good job, decent job. I like, it's either him dealing with his wives or ordering people around or peace negotiations and all that, or just like telling Nanisco, don't do this or you'll be punished or whatever. It's fine. But for him, it's more than dialogue than just anything. But yeah, at least he got to show the extent of his power as king. So he wasn't too bad, but he wasn't just given much to do other than just dialogue. So you kind of get to see, it's important that a movie like this highlights the landscape. You kind of get to see the landscape of Dahomey as well, and how the people are all of a sudden like trapped in the slave trade and all that, especially how that unravels. So is it based on a true story? Again, like I said, yes and no. So you just have to keep that in mind. But the basic framework of the story is inspired by true events that occurred during that era, during that time in West Africa. So it is something that you have to keep in mind. And now it is said that the army did grow in ranks up to like 6,000 female soldiers, which it is a fact. 6,000, that's pretty impressive. But yeah, the actual characters, like, they're not real. They are actually fictional. So this is something I thought that it was fine. It does a good job. It just tells the story of life in Dahomey at that time, and how women are still oppressed, but there's always an opportunity for them to grow and be stronger, tougher in that way. And I thought the writer did explain that because of the history of this nation, it was often written by white European people. So the fictionalization of the characters let them get away from biases that may have been present. So like there are Caucasian European characters that you'll see later on, but their characteristics maybe not as described in the books. So that's just something to just keep in mind. But one of the things I liked about the film is like how Nanisco, because of a twist revelation, makes a decision that really could have compromised, her ranking in the kingdom, just for the kingdom of Dahomey, just for this young child, who did try to be brave and heroic, but after even seeing one of her friends get killed, almost gets sold, but is sort of saved by a man that she grew a connection with, not romantically, but just in a friendly way. But still, like, I thought the choices that were made in the final act really like sealed the movie in a very strong direction. So this was just something I liked. And I realize maybe now that it's early November, I'm not sure there's still movie theater chains playing this movie, but if you saw the film, let me know if you liked it, because I think it's great. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It should come to streaming soon enough. For the second film that I want to review and react, it's going to be Amsterdam. This one I kind of liked, but I do realize it's not at the high standards as previous films directed by David O. Russell, who does helm the role of being a director once more, despite the ensemble cast. I thought like the cast choices were really interesting. Like, I mean, since this movie has Christian Bale, of course, like it's gonna be a really good film. I'm one of those people that likes him, always liked him as an actor, so I'm really glad I got to see him once more. Also, it did include two other leads, John David Washington and Margot Robbie, and even the rest of the supporting cast also very good as well. There's Anya Taylor-Joy, Rami Malek, Robert De Niro, Zoe Saldana, and like Taylor Swift for just 10 minutes. Let's be honest about that. there may have been someone else I'm missing, but a very uh, very strong casting list for this movie. I thought that was very good. But yeah, like the three main leads are really interesting. So why are they important? Well, at least two of the three. One of them is the doctor and a lawyer. They've known each other from the World War One, I think, or World War Two. Sorry if I'm incorrect. It's just been a few weeks since seeing it. I think the First World War, but after that, trying to find their lives in a profession that they want to do. But during that time, they met a young nurse. They form a connection and run away to Amsterdam. So Amsterdam for them just is when they found this happy place. But I thought it should have been more expanded to that and just really come back to it instead of just making it like a past story. So anyway, Bale throughout the movie he narrates, which I thought was a really cool plot device as well. But yeah, him as a doctor and John David Washington as a lawyer, they get in trouble. They're being accused of a murder they did not commit. So they're just doing everything they can just to simply clear their names of any wrongdoings that they didn't do at all. And so all the characters they know and meet, like, have some sort of role in this whole mystery of trying to solve the issues as well. You know what? And everything is fine. Dialogue, the script writing is fine. I realize, like, again, like, it's easy to compare it to David O. Russell's work, but I just wanted to focus on this film because I thought it was still, like, I'm not calling it great, but I still thought it was pretty interesting. I liked a lot that I've seen throughout, especially like even seeing Robert De Niro once more. Like, yes, as a supporting character, he did have much to do, but I thought he was pretty cool as well. It was just great to see it, But the thing that may have probably one of the issues with the story is that it sort of kind of spins around. I don't know if that makes sense. It just kind of spins around, like going from a mystery thriller, a whodunit kind of film, to something that becomes bigger with a possible conspiracy theory, with some sort of group that's like trying to change New York or whatever to a different direction and having this man speak for them in a way that they want to. So it just kind of gets confusing as well. But as if you follow along, try to remember from the beginning, it kind of makes more sense, But um, it was pretty cool just seeing the relationships. I think what did carry this movie for most of the part is just this trio of like how they have this special bond together and kind of stayed as well. There was a time when they all just got away, wanted to focus on their own lives, their own goals, and that's pretty normal in life in that sort of aspect. But I mean, it does help that their strong bond really just carries them, and they're still able to stick together, trying to help each other solve this crime, clear their names, and all that stuff. Even like just towards the end, another twist of a character who we thought is an ally, sort of a double crosser as well. So I thought that was again like a neat twist as well. But yeah, like, is it perfect? No. But is it bad? Definitely not. But what it should have done is, I think, stay with the concept of just what Amsterdam means to them. Even though they're like, there was plenty of time, there's plenty of screen time with them being in Amsterdam and whatever art creations they did and celebrations, party, and so forth. I just thought like they should have done more of that, but it's still pretty solid. It's not gonna win a lot of audiences, but it's not a bad film in itself. I still think like it did a pretty decent job as like a mystery who done it kind of film. So yeah, like not one of David O. Russell's best works, but it's certainly not a dumpster fire or a trash kind of film either. It's still pretty decent film in itself. All right, guys and gals, third and final film that I want to talk about that I saw, Black Adam. And you know what? I'm glad I did. So let me just get this out of the way. Uh, another DCEU film. While I do recognize that critics don't love it, audiences do. This is one of those movies that once again has like this division between critics and audiences members. So this is just something that since its release I've noticed. And I'm glad that it's finally here. Like This is a movie I remember that's been announced way back, I think 2017, and it's 2022, and this movie's finally out. I mean, I had no idea until I found out like this movie may have been announced like what way back in 2007 or sometime afterwards. Like Black Adam as a movie like has been in development hell for like a really long time, maybe just as long as Deadpool until that test footage came out that everyone remembers from Deadpool. But that's a different topic. But yeah, but like I want to go ahead with this movie. Like yeah, so the Dwayne the Rock Johnson's performance as Black Adam, it's fine. It's good enough. But I mean, like, he was purposely stiff. He wasn't trying to be like funny or charismatic or a comedic or anything like that. Like, The Rock is more of a charismatic kind of guy, and I think on purpose he wasn't. He wasn't at all. He didn't even smile much. So I think a lot of people may have criticized his performance, but that was really on purpose. This is who he was as just a character. Like all of a sudden awaken after like centuries, and I like how there's this background story that at least we thought was clear of who he was or where he came from, his family, his people, and a fictional Egyptian city of Khandak. But it's clear as the movie goes on, more and more missing information gets revealed of what happened and who he was and how his powers were attained by the wizards that granted him whenever he says Shazam. Speaking of which, I hope there's like a crossover of Shazam and Black Adam because I think that's going to be more than expected. But back to this film, he finds himself as sort of like he's supposedly like this champion, this figure supposed to save Khandak, but when he takes his actions in a not so heroic way, you know many people, natives, they see him as heroics, just trying to get out of this, get rid of these like mercenaries, just overtaking the city for reasons that really like, at least if I forgot, like really not well explained, at least to me. It's a good thing that like the JSA debuted, Justice Society of America. They're one of the more interesting characters in this film. I like Hawkman and Doctor Fate in this movie. And like as for a Cyclone and Atom Smasher, fine. They're like the young members of the team, all cool, whatever. Kind of like they were there just for comic relief, but their powers are pretty cool. Like if you kind of think about it, like they're I think they're there just to like sort of like MCU a character like similarities, like Doctor Fate as a sort of like the opposite of Doctor Strange, and then Hawkman, Falcon, Atom Smasher, Ant Man, and then Cyclone. That's actually a hard one. I might have seen like a comparison picture of Cyclone, maybe Storm, or I could be missing, but I still like the inclusion of these characters. I thought like the relationship between Doctor Fate and Hawkman was pretty interesting. The movie works try to give a lot of background detail on who they are as people. Like have years of just teaming up together and all that cool stuff. But yeah, look, I'm not gonna lie. Script not the best, but it's not a disaster movie. It's still a lot of fun. Pretty cool cinematography. Visual effects, more than good enough. Well done, and then all that. I thought that two of the more important characters who are more human than anyone. A woman named Adriana, she's like the mother studying historical artifacts of Khandak, and then of course her son, kind of like a Gen Z kid, loves skateboards, loves superheroes, knows everything there is to know about Batman and Superman. So I thought that was pretty cool. But one of the things I noticed that's like kept being highlighted throughout the film is like this sudden rivalry between Hawkman and Black Adam, just because the way they handle problems in the world, the way they view the world, it's just different. So their attitudes, their mindsets, it's just different. This is why like they didn't really get along immediately, even when like calling a truce immediately. And like in the third act, just kind of gets lost in this whole mythical book mumbo jumbo, MacGuffin that becomes important, like this crown thing. So yeah, this is one of those movies that once again like has a MacGuffin. It is an actual term. I know it sounds silly, but there is like an object that's like a MacGuffin that like becomes important and like changes everything and either ruins the world or it can save the world. So it's that kind of thing. But yeah, regarding cinematography, if there's something that I didn't have an issue with, but I kept noticing, is there were so many like slow motion moments. I think it's just meant to like emphasize the epic action sequences, and there were a lot of pretty good ones. But I think it's just kind of like meant to just keep the audiences on their toes, and it just kind of kept me in it. Like whether it's someone, a character that we want to care about, almost in danger, or uh, a really cool actions and set piece about to happen, like you'll notice how there are like a lot of slow motion moments that just kept happening, and it's more common than you think, especially like somewhere towards the end, you know. But I do want to highlight it once more. Doctor Fate. I think like Pierce Brosnan as Doctor Fate, like I thought he did a pretty solid job. He showed his character as his wisdom. Of course, Pierce Brosnan as well being like cool and all that. I'm not used to Pierce Brosnan with like you know, with the beard and all that, and the way his hair is all slicked back. So I thought he still looks pretty good. And Aldous Hodge, his performance as Hawkman, more than sufficient enough. He still did a good job. He showed a lot of rage with his character, you know. So yeah, I still thought it was good. Like as for the Black Adam character, like slow but little developments. I do like how, I forgot the kid's name, but I really do like how, you know, he does slowly but surely like care about him. He bonds with him in a way. I thought like that was important. It does, you know, push the story forward and like what he's willing to do for the people that actually care for him. You know, because he views himself as someone who doesn't deserve to be this champion, but others see him as the savior who was chosen to be and is meant to be. It's about also like Black Adam just trying to find his self-worth and like you know, discovering the belief he has himself eventually. You know, when you especially when it comes to the backstory of his own family and how they have been sacrificed for his own power. So I thought like when you break it down, his own journey, I still thought that was pretty interesting as well. It is a fun time. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's not meant to be like thought provoking, but there are like nice familiar family themes. Well, I don't want to say family themes. I just think like again, family is still a good part in this movie, but it's just meant to be fun and exciting. There is still the whole world building thing and all that, especially since like a DC EU film as well. Even though like the film franchise itself is sort of going restructure, rebranding, and change of position. I'll talk about that another day, but um, it's definitely an exciting movie. It's a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed it. I thought the critics were too harsh. It's not a great story, but it's still decent enough. Maybe a few comedic moments I think were that was like a bit forced, trying to force the humor, but it's still more than fine. Still a solid movie, still worth checking out to this day. You know, if you want to go again, yeah, I mean, it's still a lot of fun until Black Panther Wakanda Forever comes and December Avatar the Way of Water. So yeah, uh I recommend it as well. Get your popcorn and go ahead and watch it. It's still a pretty solid film. All right, guys and gals, that pretty much wraps up the Films and Pixels podcast, episode 27. For those of you that have watched and listened to the whole episode from beginning to end, whether on YouTube or on audio streaming platforms like Spotify, and El-Jamil, or whatever your choice may be, Google Podcast, again, thank you so much for watching and listening. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me, just the time you take to just listen to these topics, listen to my opinions and views on everything going on. It means a lot. So again, thank you. If you haven't done so before, please subscribe and follow. You know, even just give a like. It'd help if you comment as well, or share with your peers, family, friends. It means a lot. Thank you so much. Like it really will help me and it'll help this channel. It does mean a lot. So again, thank you. And yeah, this is your host, Afif Jamil, the Films and Pixels podcast, episode 27. Good day and good night.